welcome back to the Pretty Awkward Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm so excited today because our couples conversation guests are Ruby and Mike Lee. Welcome, guys. So happy to have you here.
Hello.
Yay.
Thanks for having us.
Mike, your last name is Lee, right?
No.
Okay. I already screwed it up.
As
I said it, I was like, is Mike's last name Lee? I don't even know. I was like, don't say something now.
I was like, okay, I'll be Mike Lee.
What's your last name? I'm dying. This is the best way to start this off. What's your last name, Mike?
It's actually Poon, Poon. It's a good Chinese name.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, there you go. I just called you Mike Lee. That's okay.
No, but this is actually good because I think a lot of people presume that I took on your name, and the reason why I haven't is in so many ways it's Ruby Lee is the business brand name. And then to change it, I would have to change so much of the business thing. But also secondly, I mean, we can get into this, but I was married before, which Mike only just found out, prior to going live.
Sorry, Mike.
But I was married before and I was like, I've just undone that name. Yeah. There's so much stuff you have to do legally and then to do it all over again. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep it at Ruby Lee. And if the time comes, we'll change it. So
she's keeping her options open. That's
totally. That's exactly what I'm doing.
We had this exact same conversation.
I
think she was hiding behind the business to not have to change her name.
I did change my name.
She did.
Oh, you did?
But legally.
But no one knows.
Nobody
because
knows.
I literally only go by Megan Yelaney. So our family knows. So on my license, I regret it because it's so confusing. Because everything's Yelaney for the business. And so my business card is Megan Yelaney LLC, Megan Bayan. It's very confusing. So I wish I didn't, but I love being a Bayan. I do love being a Bayan. Okay. Anyway.
I don't appreciate this.
It's just, you're so right. It complicates things. Anyway, I feel like the world needs to know who you are, but for my people who do not know Ruby Lee and Mike, of course, please tell us a little bit about yourself, your individual stories, and then how you guys got together. And we'll dive into all the goodness after.
Okay. So we have both been in business for almost 5 years. In March, it'll be 5 years. And not many people know this, but he was the one who convinced me to start the business because I was so afraid of what being an entrepreneur actually meant, which we can, dive deeper into. But prior, I was in corporate, I was in accounting, HR. And then by the time I had left, we'd started this coaching business together. What was the other part of the question?
Just who you are, how you guys got started, and how you both also got together. If you want to share any of that.
Yeah. We actually both met at work. So the classic work relationship. And there's a whole
naughty people.
Naughty. And because I was in HR, I should know the rules. Work relationships. But the company that we were at, everyone was basically sleeping with each other. So no one cares.
Oh, that's hysterical.
That happens.
Like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, we messed up a lot of boardroom tables.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Oh my God. Anyway,
I love it.
What about your intro?
Well, my backstory. So I went to school, I went to university. I did commerce, and then I forgot.
You're like, what did I do?
Got a job straight away. Worked my way up the corporate ladder. I was getting pretty high, and then I thought, nah, this is not for me. And then when I met Ruby, I noticed everyone was asking her for career advice, and I said, I reckon we could set up a business where you're a career coach, and then that's how it sort of started.
Wow. Yeah, because I'd be I'd say, I've got a 1 hour lunch break, or I manage my own time as a recruiter, and I said, I've got a 1 hour lunch break, but so and so wants to catch up for a coffee, or I'm going to have lunch with this person, they're going to pick my brain about how to get a job. And he's like, babe, you should be charging for this. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're buying me a $4 coffee.
I am charging for it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love it. I didn't really, maybe you told me this at some point down the line, Ruby, but I didn't realize that. And that's this makes so much sense now why you guys work so well together too. It's Mike, you kind of started it. You planted that seed in her head. So you've been such a integral part of the whole thing.
Yeah. I just noticed Ruby's very magnetizing. People just want to come and talk to her and especially asking for this advice. So I'm more of a behind the scenes operator. I'm more like a a director of the movie than to say the star.
The
So that's
star.
how
I love
yeah,
that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Ruby, that's how I sort of say, like, Ruby's a star, and then I try to help direct her. But now Ruby's part-time director as well. But anyway, we'll get to that. So I just saw people asking her for resume, do her resume. Can you do my resume? Can you help me with this cover letter? And then, yeah, in corporate, the currency seems to be coffees. I'll share out your coffee, or after work, it could be a beer. But I was going, no, we should start charging for this.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that's what happened. Started as a side hustle, and we just got momentum. And now we're here talking to you.
Wow. I didn't realize. So you truly fell into it. It wasn't like getting out of university, as you would say, I want to start my own business. You were ready to work a corporate job for what would have been your entire life?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was like, yes, I want to be the CEO of a company.
Yeah.
Well,
And you are just your own.
I had two goals. One was to have an endless summer, and the other was to have my own business.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I woke up one day realizing I was doing nothing to achieve either of those goals. I got sucked into the trap of uni, and then you get groomed into a corporate career. And then, I wanted to be CEO as well. And then I forgot that when I first started my whole journey back when I was 17 and starting to get serious about my career in business and trajectory I wanted to go on, that I wanted to be a business owner and an entrepreneur. And I just parked that for so many years. So I did want to, but then I don't know, I just never acted on it. And I did have opportunities along the way, but but Ruby was the spark I needed.
Yeah, she was your muse, if you will.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. So for those listening who don't know, Ruby and I have actually been friends for how many years now? Gosh, I feel like since 2020, 2019?
Yes. Yeah, I think it was 2019.
If it was Italy, it was 2019.
Yeah.
2019. Yes. Oh my gosh. And we were in a mastermind together. The last few years have all collided. I don't even know what year it is right now. And we were in a mastermind together, and then we just like clicked right away in that mastermind. And so we just kept in touch, and now we have our little self-run mastermind. So it's been on my perspective, my lens, and I've been telling him about all of your journeys throughout the past few years. It's been so cool to see the different evolutions of your business, and also to see Mike come and be a huge part of that. Like when we first were together, at least from what I saw, it didn't seem like, Mike, you were as integral as a part as you are now, maybe you were, but I just didn't see it as much front and center. So I would love just to start off with, like, how did you go from both having these corporate jobs to Mike going, okay, I'm going to come in full time into the business and help support it?
Oh, it was okay. So it was really the other way around. So
okay.
I was still working. So he had quit his 19-year job, took a voluntary redundancy of sorts, and became a stay-at-home dad. So we already had Teddy, who's now 7, but we already had him. And do you remember that conversation you said, I think you need to go and scratch that itch and go back to corporate after maternity leave and just get that out of your system. And then we can talk about starting a business together. And it was so good that you did that, because I really needed to have that like last hurrah, close that circle off. And so I was going to work part-time, and he was staying at home with our son. And whenever I would come home from work, he would have spent the whole day. He's just like wonder dad over here. He'd be like, yeah, Teddy slept for this amount of time, and I had so much free time, and blah, the house was clean, dinner was cooked. And he had listened to like 16 podcasts. So he was like reeling to tell me all of these ideas that he had gotten. And he's like, I've written out this business plan. We had like a whiteboard in our office, and he had like the whole strategy out. And I'm like, what is going on right now? So,
wow.
It was just this this kind of really cool moment where I was like, okay, I've got like a real strategy person like on the team.
Yeah.
Well, that was my job in corporate, was strategy as well. So I thought I was going to take 6 months off. I said to Ruby, go back to work. I'm happy to quit and just take 6 months off and relax. But I couldn't really relax. I had all this spare time. Being a stay-at-home dad so easy. So I had all this spare time, and I was just, just doing business plan after business plan.
Wow.
Centered around, Ruby as a start. I had my own plans as well. I had plans to be a drop shipper and all this sort of stuff. But
and Mike, you'll appreciate this. He was like, maybe I can like properly start my professional online poker career.
Yes. Oh my God.
Most poker players and entrepreneurs, it's very similar.
Yeah, it makes sense. I love it. I love it.
Then Australia changed the rules and we couldn't use real money on online poker.
I can get deep into the online poker. And Megan and I first met, I had to go to Mexico for a very short time.
Literally like a month into us dating, he's like, so I've got to go to Mexico for a while to play poker.
No, I had to get an apartment.
Oh yeah, he had to get an apartment. I was like, this sounds really fishy. What's happening?
It's a
Are you doing illegal things? What's happening? That's so you guys I know. I was like, right? Do you have a family in Mexico that you're not telling me about? Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. That's kind of funny. You just have such a unique story then in the sense where Mike, again, you were like kind of leading the ship, it sounds like, which is so funny because like knowing Ruby, I wouldn't think that, but you were kind of like, I see the vision. Again, I see you. I'm the director. I see you as the star of my movie. I see this magnetic person. Let's use this. So I love that. That's incredible. So it sounds like you guys were business partners truly from the get-go, right off the bat. So Ruby, once you quit your job and were full-time in the business with Mike, how was that dynamic of going from, side hustle to now living together, working together, balancing all that?
I think it felt really natural for us because we were already doing that into the midnight hours. So once, the kids were asleep, and like sometimes we'd have Henry, who's my stepson, Mike's son from his first marriage, would stay with us every weekend. So we're both boys, they'd be in bed. And we would literally just stay up from like 9 till midnight. Sometimes it'd get to 1 a.m. and we'd be still strategizing on the business. So to finally be all in, we could do that during the day, or we could do that. We had all of this extra time that opened up for us, and it felt so good. It felt like a breath of fresh air, as though we were always meant to do it. So it was, was it like that with you as well?
Yeah. I remember because I think you went back.
I hope so. Because you just said such a beautiful, Mike, like, no.
I had a totally different experience.
I was getting to a stage where I was ready for Ruby to quit. But yeah, she had is it a dream? Well, an objective, become head of recruitment at a big organization. And so that was the itch. I said, go scratch. And then you were close to getting it, but then there was politics or something. And it's something it didn't.
No, they gave me the title, but they didn't give me the pay.
Yeah. So I just said, that's the sign.
Classic story.
And let's go all in. If it doesn't work, we'll go back and get jobs. It's pretty simple plan. And so that's what we did. And then, so I think, and it was also the day you quit, the next day was also our wedding anniversary. So the day we went full-time into our business was wedding. So we had a nice dinner, and then bang, the sun came up and away we went, and it was great. Wow. It was great. Yeah.
Wow. It's so cool. It's funny. You think you know someone, you do know someone, but then all of a sudden I'm like, I didn't realize, like, Mike, that you really did lead the ship in this, which is just so awesome. And it makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense now speaking with them.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. Well, you guys also, I think, have such harmonious opposites, your strengths and weaknesses really balance each other out in a really beautiful way too. So since you're all doing everything, right? You're working together, you're raising family together, you're traveling together. How do you keep your marriage life, your intimacy, your just being a married couple separate from business? Or do you not? And that works for you too. I'm just curious how you guys kind of like keep that spark alive and it doesn't become all business 24/7.
I think a couple of years ago, or even just like when we first started, I really had this notion of, to be successful in business and marriage, we had to have some form of cutoff time for work, and then have date nights and have, really connected time together in order for this to actually work. And what I found in that model was it felt more restrictive than it did free, or than it did feel like natural. So I think now it's pretty safe to say we're pretty proud of the fact that it just coexists. There's moments when we'll be talking to each other like co-CEOs, and we're, you know, we might be kind of really pulling apart a certain strategy. He's on a different side to the table than I am, and we're not really seeing eye to eye. But that's business. It's not marriage. You know, that's just,
Yeah.
hey, I don't really feel good about going down this pathway with this operational plan. And he's saying, but the tech doesn't allow us to do this instead. And I'm like, well, let's sort it out. You know, that's a different conversation. And then like literally in the very next minute, it's like, oh, do you want a cup of coffee? Yeah, let's have a cup of coffee. You know, it's just like, and then it's just back to talking about just how much we live our best lives. And, you know, there'll just be moments where I'll just be like, I just love you so much. And it's just in the middle of a business conversation, and it all blends.
I'll flash her or something. And just...
keep going. It's just all the time. There
You got to keep the spark alive. A good flash. I mean,
lucky we don't have HR.
That's our
I do that occasionally.
We just had our sex and love coach.
We have sex and love coaches every Monday, so we had a session.
They were talking about too, like he'll on Slack. Like I sent Megan a Slack message the other day, but then he was saying, he's like, I'll just randomly drop her like Slack messages or a meme or some dirty thing, and he's like, it's great.
Yeah.
And if you can mix it,
he messaged me something a little inappropriate on Slack, and it was a private message, but I freaked out and I was like, oh, my OBM can see this. So I deleted it and I said, I loved that message, but I deleted it just so you know.
Oh
I was like, let her see.
She would be like, go team, love you guys. I think that's great.
Exactly. I mean, like on the phone, like on my American cell, his number comes up as like Big Daddy. There's an eggplant and the splashing emoji. And I was like sharing my screen once with my assistant, and I was like, oh, so for example, and she's just like, what the fuck is that?
Oh my God, I love it. That's amazing. It's just, you know what, this makes so much sense, again, who you guys are. And we've interviewed couples who actually have a totally different process because they have to separate it, right? And so I think it just shows like, do what works for you, try different things out.
I sort of agree with them. I agree with Ruby and Mike a little bit, because I can have both coexist. I think some people need it to be separate for sure, because it can also be not contentious, but if it's conversations that don't go as well either, or you're arguing about the business. For me, when we talk about anything business, future related, future plans, that is one of the things that actually turns me on the most. Like when she's like, oh, what do you want? Like, what do you need? What do you need to talk about? What's going to get like words about, if you're talking about like your love language, I'm like, planning like our future real estate investments, that gets me going. Like that starts the fire. I'm like, that's exciting. It's our future. It's you. It's our family. It's what we want to do.
That's his foreplay.
Yeah. I'm like, that's my foreplay. Let's look at real estate. That's fucking.
Oh God.
Future planning. When we have big dream, like we're always like, you know, you meant to have a strategy session, and okay, let's just start again. And we did it. Was it yesterday?
Yes.
We went on the whiteboard and we did one like 3 or 4 months ago.
September.
Planned out the year and beyond, and then we go, let's scrap that. Let's start again. And I love it. That's where that's my happy place as well.
It brings us closer, because it's the thing about setting the vision, and we're building this vision together.
Exactly.
And it brings us so close that there is no you can't see the line anymore between this is supposed to be what a marriage conversation looks like and what a business conversation looks like. It starts to just become this big, beautiful nucleus of, this is what we're creating together.
Maybe it works well, because during the day, we often just go to our separate corners and do our own stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not too much interaction during the day.
That's true.
So when we come together at night, we have the chat. So it's not like we're in our face, or I micromanage Ruby or vice versa. It's like she does her thing, I do my thing. And we both know we've got each other's roles covered. So there's not that.
That's kind of. That's I know, because even Randall we were speaking to, and Eve, they were like, they're in the same room. I'm like, that sounds.
But now they're not. They're separated.
Like, it needs to be exact. I was like, I'd love 2 complete offices in 2 different houses, like a guest house that I could go in. That's my own thing.
That's our big vision. There. 2 different houses to live separately.
No, you go off to your job and then you come back together.
There is, you know what? A lot of entrepreneur couples do that. They have multiple homes. And one is like an office or a set or like a podcast studio, and you can sleep there. And then there's like the home. It's actually,
I don't want to say that I found a house on Long Island that is set up kind of like that, and I have it saved right now. And it has basically that. And on the thing, it's like, it's set up perfect for a separate business. I'm like, yes,
You're like,
this
this
is
is my
exactly what I
house.
need.
Well, also too, something like two things that just came to mind as you guys were saying this is like, I think one reason it's been so natural for you is like you said, you've been doing this from the get-go. Like it was like, Mike, you were the one who planted that seed. So you guys really haven't known anything else. You know what I mean? And I think if someone is listening who went from just a marriage to now a business partnership, or now I'm trying to support them and like trying to convince my spouse to support me, it might require a little bit more of that separation where you guys kind of, that was your, like you said, that was your, how you liked to spend your time together even before you were full-time. And so that makes a lot of sense. And just the fact too, Ruby, that your business is called Flow State Business. I mean, I would be really surprised if you were like super separate and all that. I'd be like, this makes zero sense for who you are. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I love it.
I will say ours is it's feeling more, I guess, flow to use your word. But I remember the first call we had, we were in the WeWork. It was what, like 3 months ago?
Oh yeah.
And we had our call, and one of my first, and this makes so much, I didn't know a lot of this. This makes a lot of sense because I was intimidated, to be honest. I was like, it's not intimidated in the sense of like, oh, we can never get, but it seemed to work so perfectly.
Yeah.
And when things are like, I'm like, I just don't know if we can get there. Like, this seems so, like, again, perfect. It just, there's no kinks right now. It seems like it flows really well. And this makes sense. Like, you started off that way, and that to jump into it after a business has been like evolving for years and years is definitely more difficult. So to anybody who's listening, is like, oh, we're jumping in 5-6 years into the future.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
And it's getting there.
What really helps is Mike and I, we worked together, but we were in completely different departments, different floors of the building. But there was enough that I knew about his work ethic. Like, he had a reputation at work. His personal brand at work was always about leading really strong strategic and operational teams. Like, no one in his team resigned. Like, he was a good leader. People just stuck around, and he really developed them. And, you kind of had this like reputation of everything was just so easy and just fell in your lap. And everyone would sort of joke, like, he'd never be in his office. He'd always be like having a cup of coffee somewhere. It's like, where is this guy? Like, floating around with a cup of coffee. And you knew enough about my work ethic where I was just very much like, I don't know, just go. And I was very disciplined and dedicated, and I just get shit done. So by the time we came together and started this business, I think we kind of already had that underlying trust in each other.
Yeah. I remember, I don't know, we're on a date, I can't remember what it was, and you had sort of this persona, you're on your best behavior, and then a work call came in, and then I heard her just like take charge. I'm like, oh, okay, I see it now. I see it.
Yeah.
And then, after a couple of months and just seeing her on the phone and how she worked, and then people coming to her, I'm going, all right, I reckon we can make a business out of this. And that was so early on, we weren't even really, I don't know, we're committed to each other, I suppose. But, early on, you're still not totally sure what's happening. But I knew from a business point of view that
when the kid moved all of his stuff in, everything was in my apartment. And then I was like, do you know everything is here? Your suits are here, your Xbox is here. And he had this one moment, his lips turned white and he just started cold sweating. And he's like, oh my God, all of my stuff is here.
Literally, because I only had a suitcase of stuff because I was living with my brother on his couch at the time. It was meant to be
I love it.
It was meant to be a temporary situation, but 18 months.
Did you start the business before you were married?
Yeah.
Oh,
we
wow.
did. Yeah. It was a very, very early, like,
I didn't know that.
It was a side
based
hustle.
off. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it turned obviously. So the business, you had the business, the marriage the relationship could fail, but the business was going to flourish.
You knew that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't think that, but after what you said, I was like, wow, the business must have started. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Something too, like that. This has been a theme throughout every interview we've done, and it's just going to always be the theme. I think is especially for you guys is you're approaching everything as a team, as like your vision together. It's not Ruby's business, it's not Mike's business. It's like you guys really are a team, and I think that's like the hardest part a lot of times for the couples that we have listening to this, even if they're not especially if they're not in business together, is like, how do I include my spouse in these conversations? without boring them and making them feel like, hey, I'm doing this for us, for our family, for our growth. So if you have any input, because I know you've coached so many people too, Ruby, who are in these situations, on like how to kind of include your partner with and make them feel like they're part of it, even if they're not working in it with you. If that makes sense.
I think it really comes down to look out for where they naturally fall in the business, because it's not like, oh, I want to retire my husband or my partner so that they can come work for me. That might not be what they want either. But if there's a natural fit, it just starts to be a part of the everyday conversation. I mean, I think about my friend, and her partner's just gone full time into the business. And where they really saw that happening was, he really enjoyed taking photos and videos and editing videos, editing photos, editing podcasts, doing sound. And she was like, hang on a second, this is interesting. Why don't you do more of it inside of the business? It's gradual. It was 6 to 8 months before they had the conversation of, maybe you should quit your job and do this as a full-time thing. And it helps because her main, way of getting herself out there is YouTube. So she's like, why am I paying this person $1,000 a video when you could just work inside of the business and we can expand out your role? So, I mean, that's one example of where it just naturally evolved and unfolded that way. And it's, I just think you've got to look out for where natural talents are, as well as where it feels really like an equal exchange of energy as well.
Go
ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, a couple of years ago, I think we were talking about me becoming a co-coach or having more of a face in the business. And then I started to do it a little bit, but I just naturally, for me, getting on camera and doing stories and all that, it's not natural to me. And doing these sort of interviews like day in, day out, I don't think I could do. So I kept falling back and doing the stuff I love. So you just got to play to your strengths, I suppose.
I was gonna say, like, I remember when we were talking about it, and I think I would just kind of yes you no matter what you would say. And then now I'm fine.
When we weren't in a good spot.
This was years ago. And I was like, this
I was always right.
I was like, I was just yes her to death. And then be like, okay, now I'm actually understanding, like, steering into your strengths. And even with the podcast, like, I don't love editing the podcast. That's not something I'm passionate about, but it's something I knew I could figure out super easily, would save us money, and eventually I'll probably get rid of the role. I'm like, all right, let's start there. I'll start with that, and then I'll start to learn more about, because I don't know the actual ins and outs of the business. I'm like, I know the strategy. I'm long term. I know I can figure out a lot of that side of things, and big vision. And now I'm learning more about it while we're doing other things, and so it takes time. It's been taking time.
And then once you do outsource it, the podcast editing, you'll know if someone's bullshitting or not when you're trying to outsource it. Like,
I remember that was one of you said it in our call, actually, and it was one of the things I had wanted to say a long time, whether it was with Facebook ads, because Megan had gotten screwed over a couple of times with people. But I was like, I just almost want to learn it all myself, so I know enough to make the proper decision, because I feel like
of hiring,
I just feel like you're not making the best decisions with it at the moment.
I'm a little too naive and gullible when it comes to hiring sometimes, but
and I was like, that's why
I learned my lesson.
I was like, I'll take charge of that, to say at least.
And then you guys really did help us with this when we had our first call. And one of, he's very analytical, very data driven. So this week, actually, he's really diving in and learning Facebook ads. And like, that's something he's going to take on. Again, like you said, I'm sure eventually we'll have someone else do it, unless he's like, I love doing this, but at least he'll know, like, he can look behind and be like, why aren't they changing this? Or why are they changing this? Or, stuff like that. And that's just so invaluable. I think that's so.
At the moment, I've just dived headfirst into YouTube videos. So I'm doing the editing. Their analytics is really good. And now I'm learning about the YouTube SEO, and I'm just like immersed in it. I just love it.
I love that.
Because we made a goal this year. I'll make you famous on YouTube. So, and we want to be doing monetization, get monetized, and like different income streams. So that's my real passion at the moment. And it's really giving me life, because I sort of cruising a bit. I knew my thing. Like, I'd go into the back end, I'd create a course, post a video if it's, a new course we're doing. I was like, oh yeah, it's okay. And then I do my trading on the side. But now this is just giving me a new passion. Like I noticed with us, we want to do a new thing every 18 months or so. We need a new
new
project.
challenge or something.
And then I'll learn it, and then
Mhm.
I know in 12 months time I'll handle it off to someone else. But
Yeah.
at the
I love
moment-
that.
It sounds a lot like I just love learning new things too.
Yeah.
Learn enough to know it, to get decent at it, hand it off, find a new thing, and make sure then you're hiring the right people. And like we said, doing it the right way.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
What's really
Mhm.
interesting, we had this discussion quite recently, and Mike was getting all frustrated and just like, you know, I was like, what's going on? Like, are you not enjoying being in the business at the moment? Is there something that's not really sitting right in terms of, you know, your job role and my job role? Like, what's happening? You know, when you can just sense it. And yeah, we had a nice little sit down talk, because you were like, I'm just not enjoying the admin side of the business anymore, because he still does a lot of the things like, if a client comes in, he does the contract, sets up the payment links, and then gets that all started. And I'm like, well, that part of it, like, that can move on. Like, somebody else can do that. And there's just like those moments where it's easy to kind of say, oh, when I'm done with it, I'll close it off and move on.
Yeah.
But at the
Mhm.
same time, yeah, it's so, that was quite a good discussion that we had about how we can make both of our jobs more exciting, or both of like the business more exciting. And
Yeah,
and I've really seen you almost like get reinvigorated by the business.
it was
again.
almost
Mm.
instant that I suddenly realized I didn't want to do it anymore, because it was eating into my time to learn YouTube.
Yes.
I wanted to learn YouTube,
Mm.
and I go, oh, I have to do this, whatever it was, this
I know,
admin
it's like,
thing.
babe, just
So
so
overnight, I was like, I sort of got, oh, I don't want to do this. So I got really frustrated one
I
day.
was like, whoa, like, what's
Yeah.
happening?
Especially
Yeah.
when it's a skill that is, you know, for lack of a better term, like really easy to learn, like sending a contract out.
Yeah.
And, you know, anyone, you
Yeah.
could teach anyone to do that.
Right.
I guess you could argue you could teach anyone to learn to edit a video, but it's going to require more skill, more creativity, like more time. So I think that's just a higher paying thing too, that you would
that's it.
outsource. So that
Well, they
makes
say,
so much
like,
sense.
the most expensive business expenses for an online entrepreneur is, one, Facebook ads or advertising in general, and secondly, it's video editing. They are
That
like
makes
the
sense.
two highly paid skills that you would outsource. Like, I heard from somebody the other day that it was like, to do 4 videos, short videos, 5-minute videos, it's $1,000. Now that's really cheap. I've also heard that someone pays $4,000 a video.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or,
I mean,
you know,
Mm.
it's, or like, you know, Mr. Beast charges, or does he pay per thumbnail? $100,000 per thumbnail.
Whatever.
Ridiculous. You
yeah,
know,
I mean,
it's
you
like,
can.
God.
Yeah, I spoke poker vlogs are big, and I've casually talked to some people. I mean, the editing it takes.
It's very involved.
It
Yeah.
is tedious.
And
It
it's,
is long.
and like you said, there's so it's one of those things for anyone listening to who's starting a new social platform, especially something like YouTube that is SEO and just, I think, really smart, is it's a long-term game. And so it's something that people so easily will quit because they're not seeing a monetary
Yeah.
return. And it's like, you got to be in this for like a year, at least consistent, like
oh yeah,
every week dropping a new video. And I remember starting YouTube and it started to pick up. And then I just was like, something's got to go off the plate. And I just wasn't excited about it anymore. And part of me is like, man, I wish I kept it up, because now 2 years later, my channel would have been blown up. So I love that you guys are, again, though, you're doing it as a team. You're excited to edit, Mike. You're excited to learn that side, the SEO, all that stuff. And that can support Ruby, you being the star of the movie, you know, which I love.
yeah. And you know, one of the things that also works really well for us is like, we explicitly really trust each other in our job roles. Like, I'm not going like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Like, why are you wasting time on this? Or didn't we agree that we'd be doing this? Like, there's not any of that in
micromanaging.
Yeah, it's just
Unless
How does that feel?
I'm in Canva.
Unless you're in Canva.
What are you doing in Canva? Why are you in Canva? Shut it down right now.
That's
we
great.
just started,
That's
so
great.
give me a little bit of leeway.
No, I mean,
it is something I am working on, is not micromanaging him.
It's not, but it's
For
not.
sure.
And to be fair, it's not completely off base and out of nothing. Like, I am what's the word?
Procrastinator.
Yeah, no. So not. I don't think that's the right word.
I mean,
I don't think that's the right word.
I
I like
he
doing
gets it
things.
done, but he gets it done right before it's
I'm
due.
never going to be Megan, and Megan's never going to be me, and we had to balance out. But it's also just building that trust.
Yeah.
A lot of this goes back deep into like our marriage in 2017, 18, 19.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of these things that we knew, that I realized I was like, this is going to take some time to get used to, and doing this and that. And the podcast was probably where it started, and there would be maybe some casual check-ins, and now it doesn't even, it
Now,
never
yeah.
happens. And so I'm like, she just needs to have a couple of weeks here and there where things show up, and then she'll be
Totally.
fine.
I mean,
Yeah.
essentially, it's kind of like you have someone new on the team, you're still training and onboarding them. There's still
Yeah,
like a probationary period where they need help. You need to kind of understand how to better communicate. And then once it starts flying, it just, you don't need to think about it. You know, it is that like,
Yeah, at the start, it sort of made out that, yeah, we from day one, we were perfect in sync, but it wasn't like that. It did take 6, 9, 12 months to find our rhythm. Like,
I'm sure.
to start with the roles, but now because we're what, 5 years in or whatever it is, we've got that. But it does take time to find the rhythm of how each other.
Yeah. And I've definitely had to learn how to ask questions differently or ask for things to be done differently as well, because I can very much be, well, I've just made a sale, do the contract, or I've just done this and I've got an idea and can you just make the sales page happen? Or I've just recorded an amazing podcast episode. Can you edit that one first? And that used to be my communication style, where it was very much like, quick, let's go, fast moving. And now I guess I'm just like, my questions are more so, hey, what's on your plate today? And is this something that you're able to fit in now? If not, that's cool. We'll rearrange it. But there's something else that's kind of come up that I think is a little bit more important than what's on this list. And then we would discuss it. So it'd be much more open and he used to get really frustrated with that communication style. Like, wait, like,
sometimes
if
I'm in the zone and I'm like, trying to work something quite technical, if it's new software or whatever it is. And then it's like, stop this. I've just had an idea for a new opt-in. Can you do the sales page right now?
Yeah.
But then half of me was like, well, part of our, competitive advantage is that we're nimble and I can get that up and I don't have to outsource it. But then the other, is it priority? And then so we have a bit of a discussion now. Especially now that I'm on a YouTube phase. I go, no, everything has to be YouTube.
I think that was the biggest I think it was funny. You would ask me, like, when I came in and my business was shut down and it was poker and I wasn't pulling in a ton of money, and that got taken away from my identity, I think I would have just, in the very beginning, I was like, all right, whatever she needs, I will do. And I will not stand up for myself. And then instead, it was also kind of how you approached it, similarly to Ruby, where it's like, what do you have the bandwidth? Do you have this to take care of? And this, that, where if you would have just said like, hey, I need you to do this right now, I would have pushed everything else to the side and be like, well, of course, like, this is what I have to do, rather than stick up for myself and be like, no, this is more important to me right now. And then, okay, we can have a discussion about it.
I think that's like, that is when people don't do that, that's when because we've experienced this, that's when it bleeds into your marriage. And that's when all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not feeling attracted to you today. I'm really annoyed with you for some reason,
if you're having resentment build in the business, that's naturally going to bleed into the marriage.
Totally. Which I think is like a perfect segue into kind of talking about the fact that I was watching your stories. I talked about this before we started recording, and you guys get this question a lot, is how do you fight? Oh, just like point blank, do you fight? And what your answer was no. And I think we talked before, and I'd love you just to share, it's not because you're picture perfect all the time or anything like that, but you guys came from marriages previously. Again, Mike, I'm sorry, you just found out today. Ruby was married before you. But you both came from previous more drama-filled relationships. And so it's kind of like you came into this one with just a whole new lens. So can you kind of walk through that in a little bit, like your not fighting world and why you think you're there?
Me? Okay. After you've been around the block a couple of times, you definitely know what you want and what you won't tolerate. And so with Ruby, a new relationship, I pretty much went in, I wouldn't say I was going to have zero tolerance, but it was minimal tolerance for any drama. And my style is, if I say something and they go, no, but you said that, you meant this. I said, no, I didn't. My intention wasn't that. But then if they keep going, my style is just to walk away. Like, I've had enough, like it's going nowhere. So fortunately, Ruby's not drama filled anyway. But I think, and then with Ruby's history as well, we just weren't going to take any bullshit. Or not too much bullshit. Everyone has a bit of baggage and have their own habits and idiosyncrasies you got to overcome. But I was just ready. If Ruby was drama, then
I actually do remember this one moment. There was this one moment I was having a very, very bad week. and we were still pretty early on. We'd actually just moved into our first home together. And anyway, something had happened. It triggered off this really bad mood that I was in. And then it just escalated, went into like a shouting fight. This is probably one of the big fights that I remember that we had at the very beginning of our relationship. And it ended up with me getting to this point where I stormed off like a freaking child and slammed the door. Like I was like, bam, slammed the door. And it was just like, bruh. Anyway, he comes after me, opens the door, and he's like, really? He's like, you're slamming doors now? Because if this is the drama, if this is really what you're doing, and if this is an insight into what it's like to live together, I'm out. Like, you've just got to tell me, is this how you approach things? And I just remember that like moment where I'm like, this isn't how I approach things. Like, well, I mean, obviously everyone has different ways of reacting, but I still remember that. And I'm happy to report I haven't slammed doors since. But it was like a really interesting moment where I'm like, like, and you know, at the time, I think I was like 29 years old slamming doors. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing?
I look back to some things that I did and said when I was 29, I'm like, wow, I had a lot of growing up to do, which is why when I see these like really young entrepreneurs, I'm like, wow, you guys are some of them so wise beyond your years. And then some, I'm like, okay, you just need to grow up a little bit. That's it. You're just really young. You just need to grow up a little bit and you'll be fine. It'll fix itself.
Yeah.
I love that. And I like that you guys can be that mirror for each other and, you know, be honest instead of Mike, you reacting the same way. You're like, hold up. I have this boundary. I have this thing I want to share and we're not going there. Yeah.
Yeah. That would have been a deal breaker if that was her. Yeah. If that was how she reacted to when things
handled.
Yeah. But the other thing is, I was a bit older, bit older than Ruby. So I was also didn't want to, and she was just coming off the divorce. I don't know if it was a year or 6 months, but so there was a bit of that. And so I'd been through it. So I had to also remember, give her a bit of leeway as well, because things have got to settle down.
Yeah.
But that was just, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
So I can't remember giving an ultimatum, but maybe I did.
But it was interesting because the past relationship that I was in, and I was married, I got married at 21. I was really, really young in that first marriage. And we were separated by 28, divorced at 29. And I just remember thinking to myself, that was how me and my ex-partner used to communicate. Like screaming, shouting. He would literally, never at me, but there was enough there to kind of be like, he would like throw things, punch holes in the wall, you know, like there was this level of physicality in how we actually communicated to one another, that when I tried just a little bit of that on him, he was like, what the fuck is going on right now? And it just was like a disconnect of values, or a disconnect of how we wanted to be in a relationship together. And I intrinsically knew, hang on, that's actually not the version of me that I want to bring into this new relationship. And thank goodness, because then years down the track, it's like when we do have a disagreement in business, we have a disagreement in parenting, that's no longer how we communicate. It's very, sometimes we do need to take our space and take a breath, and he needs to go to the gym and run it out or whatever. And then we come back and it's like, all right, like, how are we going to deal with this? And just talk about it like civil people.
Yeah, it's a lot of self-awareness and then keeping each other accountable in the relationship. Like, we just had a conversation that over money that I knew would have we would have ended up getting into a fight.
Oh, money. Oh, that is like always a heated conversation.
Yeah, but I knew it was going to be a tough conversation.
He literally brings it up and I just start crying.
I was like, and she was exhausted. I was about to get my period. She was about to get her period. I was conversation of things. I had to prep myself knowing this is going to just be an emotional conversation. She was tired. I'm like, I just know this is going to make her upset and I have to sit with this and it's going to be a little frustrating. And I just wish she'd react differently or be in a better mindset. But that's not where she's at right now. She's dealing with stuff with work. She's in a certain place or whatever. And similar like to when my dad passed away, like I snapped on her once or twice and she knew it wasn't because it wasn't the regular. It was situational based off what was happening at the time. And I knew that, and then going back to that conversation, I was like, I need to have this steering into a hard conversation. I was like, this is a conversation I have to have now, or else it's going to just either
Yes.
cause like a bit of resentment on my end that I won't be able to have this conversation, and whatever, how people are going to react, how they're going to react, and then we'll just talk through it. And it's been years of practice through this.
Yeah. And it ended up great. Like you guys said, sometimes you got to go do your own thing and then come back. And I had to have my little emotional, like, cry, let it out. And then I could actually hear what he was saying. You know, I wasn't hearing what he was actually saying. I was hearing what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And I mean, that again, yeah, that's something we've been working on for, gosh, so long, and we'll continue to. It's really about just meeting your partner where they're at too. So
Sometimes
Yeah.
I see Mike just like pacing up and down, walking past me. And then I'm like, oh no. And then he's like, oh, he goes, I don't know if this is the right time to approach you on this. Or like there's moments where you're like, oh shit, you know, like I just don't know when is actually a good time to talk about this. We're just gonna have to talk about it now. And I'm like, okay, you know, there have been moments like that. And I feel like the brace happen. I'm like, and it's always something that is heavy. You know, there's something that you just have to talk about, and it's head on, and it feels heavy and gross and awful. You know, we have the cry, and then it's like, okay, we got through that. We weathered that. And there's always going to be a solution that comes from this.
Totally.
So, you know, I just feel like strong couples can get through strong conversations without acting like, you know, immature about it. It's just, this is the situation. We can see it front on. We're going to be strong together, and let's just find a way through that. And it always unfolds. And then in months to come, you kind of go, why do we make that such a big deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you become stronger because of it. You know, you really do. Like there's so much we wouldn't have been able to handle in the last year if we didn't have those skills, you know.
There was a part of me, I'm actually shocked it didn't happen. I was like, we're gonna have to have this conversation twice because Megan's gonna get so upset. She's not gonna be thinking clearly. I was like, let's just like get it out and be like, all right, let's have it like the next day and then actually come to a real solution that we agreed upon, rather than like, okay, this is like our emotional response right now, and then we'll have the conversation when you're in a better mindset and a better place. But like we just have to like break through that break through that concrete first.
Something our coaches gave us that you kind of used in the moment, actually. I don't know if I was as receptive to it, but you boop each other's noses.
I did, yeah.
And you say, what do you say?
She just said reset.
Reset.
Like if you reacted poorly,
reset,
and you're like, wait, what is happening? Like kind of like you said, like you slam the door, and say you did that right now, and you're like, I slammed the door, and you're freaking out or whatever. And then Mike would just come and be like, or you would come and Mike be like, reset. And it's like it never happened. It's like, wait, this was just completely out of character.
And it's not,
I don't know why I did it.
It's not a like, we're gonna
I like that.
It's like we're resetting the conversation. Like, I want to react differently to how I just reacted.
Exactly. Let's get back to what matters. And I was like, I love that. And he used it the other day. And I was like, you just booped my nose. Okay.
Megan, wouldn't it be so good to do that with some of our clients?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Like boop, reset. Oh, that would be amazing. I love it. I feel like we could talk to you guys literally forever because, okay, that's dramatic. But for a long, long time, because we just love you guys and respect so much of what you've built, and just not only your business, you have an incredibly successful business together, but also just the life you've built. And I got to meet your son for the first time. He's the coolest kid I've ever met. And I'm like, even their son is like the coolest guy. And so he's 7, but you know, that guy. Yeah. And it's really admirable. But again, you guys have worked at it, you've worked at it. And whether that was like before you got together, and then also when you got together, you went in knowing what you want. So anything you can leave our entrepreneurs listening, again, whether they're in a working relationship or just in a relationship and in entrepreneurship, trying to balance that and all of that, anything from your many years of working together, also in a marriage that you would leave them with.
I mean, I'm going to always say, just don't forget why you started it. Have fun. Have fun. It's not meant to be heavy and serious, because if you wanted that, just go back to a normal job. Like have fun in the business and the life that you're building. And there's times where maybe it is kind of like the book moment where it's like, hey, we're stressing about this tech integration that's not working. We're stressing about the Facebook ads that's not working. And we just come back to, we're just trying stuff out. We're experimenting. Let's just have fun.
Yeah, mine is
love that.
Make sure you have the shared goals, so you're both working towards the same thing. So for us, it's create an online business so we could travel. So we both wanted that. So that you always come back to the goal, and then find your roles, and then just respect each other's that they can manage their role.
I love that. I love that. Even if I think that's so applicable, even if someone it isn't working with their spouse, it's just cluing them in.
Yeah.
Like he didn't really know what my programs were. He'd hear them if I was launching, but he wasn't like super clued in. And so many of my clients, I realized, don't share that with their partners. Like, oh, they don't want to know about that. I'm like, they probably do. Like, you don't need to give the details, but like get them excited about it with you, you know?
Yes.
And so
They're your spouse. Of course they want to be. I remember when I was running my ticket business and our therapist was like, does Megan know what you do? And I'm like, no. And she looked at me, she's like, do you want her to? And I right away was like, no. And I was like,
kinda.
probably.
Yeah.
She's my wife. Like,
I'm not going to be on the computer buying the tickets, but
I was like, yeah, I mean, like I'm building this 7-figure, like it's doing, like it was successful. And I'm like, kinda, like this is something that I would expect my wife to know about.
Clue them in a little bit. So I love that, because that's a shared goal, you know, even if your partner's not in, it's a shared goal. Yeah, you're doing it for your family. You're doing it for, you know, your vision together. So I love it. You guys are the best. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having us on. Honestly, it was such a fun chat.
Of course. I wish we could do it in person, but we'll be reunited soon, and you'll be there as well.
Yes.
Where can everyone go find you guys and learn all about Flow State Business?
Well, you can come to our YouTube channel that Mike is building.
Yes. I love it.
It's appropriate. If you just type in Ruby Lee, you'll find vlogs, free masterclasses, all the podcasts. So I think that's the place. Like if you want to come find me, YouTube.
Yeah. I am obsessed. I love it. All right, great. We will link the YouTube. We'll also link your Instagram so people can go chat with you there, because Ruby is amazing on her stories. And it's so funny, like when you follow your friends, like I know you on such a personal level, but then I'm still like a viewer. I'm still like, oh, what's Ruby doing? I'm a viewer of yours.
So I'm just like, I love watching you scare Mike.
It's the best.
I woke up this morning, Megan was gone, she got up really early. I'm a viewer. I looked down like, where is she? Did she take pictures of Luna this morning? What is she doing? Did she walk her? That's how I caught up on Megan's morning.
What is she doing today? I'm gonna go check her story. I don't even know where she is.
I was like, where's my dog? Where's my wife? What are they doing?
I'm glad you like the scaring, because I love scaring Mike, and it's so easy.
But the one recently annoyed me because I was listening to a great book, I forgot what it's called.
The Happiness Project?
No, it was by I have it.
But all I did was say his name. All I did was go,
I was
Mike.
I was in the zone.
And he freaks out. My friend was like, that was too easy. I was like, yeah, I know.
I was in the zone.
It was great.
It's called the Happiness Hypothesis.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
I was so zoned in, and I was like reorganizing the fridge, listening to Happiness Hypothesis.
Which fun you were like.
And she was like, she's like, Mike, and I'm like, get the it's not like you didn't.
I think the reason I like scaring him so much is I started to do that when we got back together in our new apartment. So it's like a very like
it's symbolic.
Know.
Yeah,
it is
endearing. It's endearing and it's connection. Yeah,
exactly. It's symbolic of us reunited.
We have to get that apartment back just for that. It had so many Jack and Jill, they call them door, like where you can go in the bathroom, in the bedroom, in the closet, and there were so many doors. I remember when you first started, I'd like peer behind the door, like Megan.
He would be terrified to walk around the apartment.
Like, Megan, where are you? Where are you?
He's like, she's hiding.
I got out of the shower the other day, and she told me she was hiding to scare me. And I had looked, but I was taking too long, so she went away.
I was like,
I looked down, I was like, I knew you were going to scare me. I felt it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a side project. I should create a TikTok just on scaring it. It'd be huge. Be huge. All right. Well, love you guys. We'll link everything in the show notes. Everyone go tell Ruby and Mike how much you love this episode. Message Ruby, tag us, you know, the whole deal. But thank you guys. The drill. That's that phrase, the drill. Thank you so much for being on. You guys are the best and we love you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.